Hello everyone, welcome back to our series on C programming. So in today's video, we are going to be discussing on the topic of constants. So we will be addressing questions like what is a constant or what is a usage or why we require this particular concept in a programming language. And in C, what are the different types of constants we have and how to make use of them in a program. So these are all the topics what we are going to be discussing right now in this video. Right, so let us go into it. So for the first one, answering the first question, what are constants? So constants are nothing but fixed values. So fixed values means what? Values that cannot be changed or values that cannot be modified. For example, so we know that in a mathematical calculation, we have something which is called as pi. So we use it while a lot of calculations. For example, if you want to calculate the area of a circle or a lot of things where we make use of this pi. So the value of pi is actually 3.1415. It's a quite a big number, but the number is a constant value. So the value of pi is a fixed value. It is never going to change. So the value is always going to remain the same. So you want to create such values or such variables in your program, that is variables whose value is going to always remain fixed. Nobody should be allowed to modify it. So how to create such values is with this particular concept of constants. Okay, for example, okay, so for next is like we may ask where we need all this. So the first thing I would like to tell you is, assume we are creating a program, okay, for to maintain a student information. Okay, so student information is going to be maintained like the student roll number, his name, his mobile number, his address, his email ID, and throughout this course of education, like let us say he has joined us engineering. So we know engineering is for 4 years. So in all the 4 years, how many papers, how many semesters he is writing, what is the marks he scored, what is his average. So I want a program to maintain the entire information about that particular student. So first thing what we do, as soon as you enter a college, as soon as you enroll yourself in a college, you get a student ID. A student ID is given. Each and every student who is enrolling in a particular college or a university is having a student ID. And that student ID is a constant number. That is not going to change. What every semester, every month, your student ID is not going to change. It is going to remain fixed throughout your educational career until you complete that 4 years of your course. Your student ID is always going to remain the same. Same way, employee ID. So once I get myself enrolled in one of the companies, so I get my own employee ID. So that employee ID is a way of tracking me, tracking my performance. So what are the projects I am working in? How is my performance? My seniors will be reporting. Everything will happen based on that employee ID. And that employee ID is going to be unique. For each and every employee working in my company is going to have his or her own employee ID. And that value is a fixed value. No one should be able to change that value. So I want to create values like that in my program, fixed values. Then how to go about it is I will be making use of this particular concept of constants. So coming to C language in particular, constants are of two types. So we basically have two types of constants. One we call as a literal constants. We call it as a constant literal or literal constants. And the second one is a variable constant. So these are the two categories of constants what we have in our C language. Okay, so moving. First, let us see about our literal constants. So what exactly is a literal constant? So literal constants are nothing but the values. The value you're going to give for a variable. That is what we call as a literal constant. For example, okay, let us say for example, I am going to create variables. So here my y, x, z, a, na, all these are variables. And each and every of these variable is assigned with a value. Now, we already have discussed a lot about our data types. We know what are the meaning of this data type. So whenever I declare a variable of the integer data type, I know that it is going to accept only whole numbers. So when it is going to be a float or a double, it is going to accept some decimal fractional values. So when it is a char, it is a single character. And when it is a char with the size mentioned, then it is going to be a string of characters. So these data type concepts we have already discussed. So now when I am going to create the variable, I am providing some value for it. This value is what we call as a constant literals. So the value that you're going to give for a variable is what we call as a constant literals. Okay, now these constant literals are of different types. Why it is of different type? Because I have different types of data types. I have various data types. So the value which I'm going to give is also going to be of a different types. So constant literals are classified into different types. Say for example, these are the different types of constant literals what we have. Okay, say basically I have two classifications. I have a numeric constant and I have a character constant. So numeric constant in the sense numbers. Numeric means numbers. So number constants. So numbers can either be a whole number or it can be a fractional number. So that is how I am going to further classify my numeric constants. So basically constant is of two types. One is a number constant or what we call them as a numeric constant, and the other one is a character constant. So character constant, once again, it is further classified. It can be a single character or it can be a group of characters. So group of characters is what we term as a string. So this is the further classification. So what we have to remember, constant based on values, that is my constant literals, basically classified into numeric and character. Numeric is further classified into integers. So integer means whole numbers, and then a real constant. So real constant is nothing but the decimal fractional value. And same way, character constant into a single character constant or a string character constant. So this is the classification of your constants based on the value we provide. So now, when we talk about integer constant, integer, as I said, whole numbers. Please remember, in C language, whole numbers can be represented using three number systems. So we know that we are already familiar with the concept of our number systems. That is what we have been learning in our younger days at schools, right? So number system, here to represent an integer, we can make use of three number systems. So what are they? One is a decimal number. So we can write the whole numbers either as a decimal number, or we can give the whole number as an octal number system. So we can use it as an octal value, or we can give that whole number as a hexadecimal value. So there are three different number systems used to represent an integer. So whenever I am going to create an integer variable, okay, so whenever I'm going to create an int variable, so that int can be either a short int, it can be int, or it can be long int also. Remember, we already studied about our modifiers also. So when I talk about integer, so when I talk about the int data type, I want to reduce the size, I will go with short int. When I want to increase the size, I will go with long int. But everything comes as an integer, as a whole number only. So when I am going to create a variable of these data types, the value I can provide for those variables in any of these three number systems. I can provide the value as a decimal number, which is the default number system, which is the default because that is the most used one. What we do whenever we create a variable, what is that we say? We say int a is equal to 100, int b is equal to 1000. So like that, we always use the decimal number system as our default value. So that is why we say we don't have to do anything special for using a decimal. For giving a decimal value, we just give it directly. And we already know what is a decimal value. So decimal value means it is base 10. So valid numbers 0 to 9. So we can give a combination of any numbers within 0 to 9 as the value for that variable. So that is what your decimal constant comes. When we talk about octal, Okay, when we want to give a value as an octal value, then we have to follow certain rules. And now, why is this rule necessary? First, you please understand that. Now, if I am saying a variable like this, let us say I'm going to create a variable like this. I am saying int a is equal to, let us say something like 23. Now, 23, the number combinations what I have used, 2 and 3. Now, 2 and 3. As I told you, I have different decimal systems. I have my normal decimal is there, decimal numbers is there, octal numbers is there, and also hexadecimal numbers is there. Now, an integer variable can take any of these three values. Now, what did I say decimal is? Decimal is base 10. So the valid numbers are 0 to 9. So this 23 is a value which is valid for decimal also. Yes, it is a valid decimal number. Now, coming to the octal. Octal is base 8. So base 8 means what is the number combination we can have? 0 to 7. 0 to 7, totally 8 digits. So 8 numbers. So that is why we call it as base 8, right? So it can be a combination of any numbers between 0 to 7. Now, that means this is a valid octal number also. Right, 0 to 7. So 2 and 3, it comes within that range. So it is a valid octal number also. Okay, now coming to the hexadecimal part. Hexadecimal is base 16. That is, valid numbers combination is 0 to 9 and A to F. So A to F, that is, A is representing the number 10, then 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 by A, B, C, D, E, F respectively. This is how our hexadecimal works. Now, this number 23 is a valid hexadecimal number also. So, for everything, this is valid. So, how is my compiler going to take it? If I am going to get A is equal to 23, will it understand this 23 is a decimal value? Or is it an octal value? Or is it an hexadecimal value? How is my compiler supposed to understand that? So, for that only, we are having certain things what we call as prefix. So, we have something, we call it as a prefix. Prefix. So it means we are going to add some character before giving the number. So prefix means something before. So before mentioning the value, we are going to add some characters. So as I told you, default number system is our decimal. So decimal system is a default. So for that, we don't need anything. So directly when you give values like this, it is always considered as a decimal number system. It's a normal value. Now, if you want to give a value as an octal value, then we have to prefix it with 0. So if I want this 23 to be treated as an octal number, then how I have to do? I have to give it as 023. So for any octal value, the number 0 has to be used as a prefix. Then only this is going to be considered as an octal number. So now when my compiler sees this, it will understand, okay, this is not the normal decimal value. This is an octal value. So this will be treated as an octal value for me. And same way, if I want to give the value as a hexadecimal, I have to prefix it with 0x. So what is the prefix I have to use? I have to use 0x. So now this is going to be treated as a hexadecimal value. So please understand, integer means whole numbers. Whole numbers can be given. The values for a whole number, you can give it using three number systems. Okay, and the three number systems are our decimal, octal, and hexadecimal. And for decimal number system is a default number system. So you don't have to do any special things. Normally, you can just create the variable equals to give the number. That's it. But for octal and hexadecimal, we have to use the prefix. And what is the prefix? For octal, always the prefix is 0. And for hexadecimal, always the prefix is 0x. So these are some of the things what you have to remember whenever you're going to give a value for an integer. All right. And same way, as I said, real constants. So numeric constant, we saw two types. One was an integer. So integer is all these three. Second one was a real constant. So real constant is nothing but floating point values. We are going to give fractional values, decimal values. So that comes under your real constant. So values giving like this. So all these are different examples. It can be a positive number, it can be a negative number. So you can give values like this 0.4, so 47.0, 215 point, just point. I'm not mentioning any value after the point. So what is going to happen? Automatically my compiler will take it as 0. You don't have to mention it. If you're just going to give like this, automatically the compiler after the dot, it is going to add the number as 0. Same way here. Just look here. I'm saying 0.95. So what is in that before the point? Automatically it will take it as 0. So when I give this value, it is considered as 0.95. So these are the different types of real constants. Okay, fractional values. And the other constants what we saw, character constants. And again, character constants can be divided into single character or a group of characters. Again, single character, we already know that. Remember, we saw it during the data types. Single character always enclosed within single quotation. And the character can be anything. It can be an uppercase alphabet, it can be a lowercase alphabet, it can be a digit, it can be a special character, anything, but only remember one single character. That is what we call as a single character constant. And of course, we have our string constants. So string constant, a group of characters. As we already discussed, like our name, address, email ID, okay, any sort of values. It can have a combination of alphabets, digits, special characters, anything. But only thing is it has to be given within double quotes. So all my string constants are to be given within double quotes. So this is how I will be giving literal constant values. Nothing but the values I am going to supply to my variables, and these are the different types of values that I am going to give. And the types of value depends on the data type. So whatever the data type I'm going to create, the appropriate values has to be assigned to my variables. Right. Now, there was one more type of constant that was available, which was nothing but my variable constant, the most important thing. So the most important thing what we are going to discuss is about our variable constants. That is, we are going to create variables whose values are going to be fixed. Whose values are going to be fixed. Like you cannot modify that. Nobody is allowed to change it. Once I create a variable and I say this is the value of that variable, then I cannot modify it any further. So how to create constant variables? So for this, I am going to make use of one keyword. Remember, we already have 32 keywords. We already saw 32 keywords. In that, one keyword is called as const. So this keyword is used to create constant variables. So what is a constant variable? Variables with fixed or permanent values, which you cannot change within the course of your program. Right, and how am I supposed to create this? You already know how to create a variable. Right, we already saw that. What is the syntax? Data type, variable name equals to, we are going to give some values. Now, same syntax we are going to follow, but what is the only difference? We are going to add this keyword. So this keyword is going to be added with that syntax. So you can either use it like this, const, then data type, then your variable name equals to specify the value, or else data type, then follow the const keyword. Both are same, no problem. Right, so either I can have the const keyword first, or after the data type, I can specify the keyword. But that keyword is mandatory. So for me to create a constant variable, that keyword is mandatory. So just remember that point, right? For example, and I can create it of any data type. It is not necessary that constant variable should be of a particular data type. It can be of any data type. So you can see in this example, I'm creating a constant variable integer. I'm creating a double constant variable. I'm creating a char, that is a single character constant variable. I'm creating a string constant variable. So constant variables can be of any data type. There is no restriction on it. Right, so let us see a program for this. Okay, now I'm going to remove all this. Now, what am I going to do is first, I'm going to create a normal variable. So what is that I'm saying? Int a is equal to 52. Right, then we are going to print the value of a. We're just simply going to say a is equal to, then we are just going to print the value. So let us say a. Done. Then what I'm going to do? I am going to modify the value of a. So I am saying a is equal to a plus 25. So what do you mean by this? A is equal to a plus 25 means whatever is the current value of a plus 25. So to that particular value, add 25 and this new value needs to be stored again inside this same variable. So after making the modification, what is that I'm going to do? I'm going to print the value again. Once again, I'm going to say, let us say modified a. I'm just going to say modified a is equal to. Now let us run this program. See here there is no constant variable. I'm just normally creating a variable and running the program. So let us see what is the problem. Yes. The name of the function is printf. Right. What is the name of the output function we saw? Printf. Now let us run it again. See what happens. Initially to start with, the value of a is 52. Yes. And then what happens? The value of a is changed. It is modified. Now it says the value of a is 77. Remember, it is a variable. So variable means value of the particular variable can keep changing, can keep varying. That is the meaning of that name itself. Right. So now what I'm saying is, I don't want anybody to change this value. This a value is 52 and that 52 should be constant. It should not be changed at all. If you are trying to modify, then an error should be generated. So what I'm going to do simply, I am going to create it as a constant variable. So what is that I'm saying? I am adding this keyword. So const int a is equal to 52. Right, done. Now let us run this program and see what happens. Which line is throwing you the error? Line number 6. So what is there in line number 6? Line number 6 is modifying the value of a. So please remember, a is a constant variable. So constant means what I said, fixed permanent values. That is why, look at the error, what it says. It is a read-only variable a. So what do you mean by read-only variable? I can access a. I can print. See, if a is having some value, I can make use of that value. But I cannot modify the value. I cannot perform any writing operation. Write operation means what? When I change the value of a variable, it is going inside the memory location and it is rewriting. So that write operation is not available for me. I can do only read. That is, whatever is the value of that variable, I can find out. Okay, I can make use of it. Yes, but I cannot change it. So this is how I will be creating my constant variables. And this constant variable can be of any data type. See, now let us say here, I am saying int b. Int b is equal to a plus 25. Okay, so now I'm going to print the value of b. So I'm saying b is equal to, there you go. Now run this program. See what happens. No error. Why? Because here we are not changing the value of a. We are making use of a. That is allowed. So whatever constant variable you are creating, you can make use of that variable, but you cannot change the value of that variable. So whenever we try to change the value, a compilation error is going to be thrown for us. So this is the base. This is how we create a constant variables and how to make use of it in a program. So there is one more method of doing a constant variable using a macro. Okay, using a macro, we can also create a constant variable, or rather to say not a variable, but a constant value. Okay, that macro is what we call as hash define. So that is another concept which we'll be seeing in our upcoming videos. But as of now, please remember, whenever we say constant variables, so when we use the term variable, then there is only one method, that is making use of this const keyword. We can create a fixed value variable. Right. Okay. Thank you.